This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Brought to you by the British Columbia Personal Training Institute. Learn how to train, gain, and retain clients. Visit bcpti.ca. On today's podcast episode, we have a well-known face in the Canadian fitness scene. Erin Phelan is a health and fitness expert and a communications professional. As a freelance writer, her articles have been read by millions of people. She's also no stranger to being in front of the camera. Aside from facilitating virtual workouts, she's been featured on breakfast television for their Movin' in the Morning segment. She joins the podcast to share her personal story and really discuss the narrative shift that's transpiring within the fitness industry and the work that's still left to do. Erin believes, lives, and breathes the fact that exercise is medicine, and she's using her platforms to bring that message to the masses. She'll open up about her personal whys for believing in this message, especially when it comes to moving through deep loss and grief and a journey to sobriety. Before we get to the episode, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. Plus, we're continuing our gym and wellness haven tours with inspiring founder stories. I'm your host, Chrissy Van, and this is ATFW.
And I so appreciate connecting with you and the beautiful effort you put with your backdrop there. And I know really exciting things are in store in that space for you. But before we dive in, you have such this charismatic demeanor that also comes with such a passion and a purpose that really moves through what you share with people in your social space. I know it's all about building your brand because you have this thriving business, but it's not necessarily the career direction that you started with. Communications was more your world. So talk to me a little bit about those early days and where you thought you were headed.
Well, it's interesting because actually the two careers kind of went side by side. In university, I loved fitness. I mean, like everyone, I think when we talk about a fitness career and then the communications career, I wrote my first journalism article when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
And I did my first fitness class with my mom when I was 12, and I was hooked, absolutely hooked. My family was going through a lot of deep grief. My dad had died very unexpectedly of a heart attack. And I often say in my classes, I feel like my purpose found me very early on in many respects, because the biggest muscle that I work in everyone is their heart, right? Not just from cardio, but just even thinking about the connections of what exercise does for us. I went and got my first certification from the YMCA when I was 19. Simultaneously, I was doing my undergraduate degree, and then I went and did a master's degree in journalism. So I spent quite a lot of my time in my 20s not doing fitness, as people in their 20s do, right? A lot of the time. Not nowadays, but back then it was like you're traveling the world and you're doing this and that. And then when I moved to Toronto 20 years ago, I was freelance writing. I worked for a couple of publications, but I was mainly a freelance writer and doing a lot of on the side freelance communications work. And a man named Jeff Bagshaw, who actually is the head of Equinox in Vancouver, I was taking his classes and I'm like, oh, I was a fitness instructor like 10 years ago or 8 years ago. He's like, do it again. So both careers went side by side. And it's like a braid for me, right? I teach live fitness classes daily. And then I come upstairs and I do my communications work. So it's pretty awesome, actually.
And I understand that you've had a lot of published works as well within the fitness sphere. So talk to me a little bit more about that blend and how you really built yourself out as an incredible authority in the space.
Well, I mean, at the time, I got very lucky. One of my first editors that loved my work and loved my writing wasn't even a fitness piece. She was the editor at large, and actually she's back as the editor at large for Reader's Digest. So I had pitched them a piece about 15, 20 years ago. And then Reader's Digest launched a magazine called Best Health, which many of your listeners and viewers will know. And my editor said to me, do you want to contribute to that? So for close to a decade, I was one of the contributing writers for Best Health. And for me, it was just writing about exercise just came very naturally to me. So all of a sudden I started going, well, maybe I can pitch this out. So I did a lot of exercise pieces when I had kids for today's parent as well. And then I started doing a lot of ghostwriting for private corporations, which is something I still do to this day, usually in the health and wellness sphere. And for me, it's just, I mean, writing is very similar to exercise. When I'm writing, it's almost as though it's time just passes like that. So when the pandemic hit, I had written a couple of pieces for a variety of magazines on exercise as medicine. And Sarah Hodson, who's the president of the Fitness Industry Council of Canada and the CEO of LiveWell, who I know you've had on your show, she reached out to me, and they were publishing a piece in CanFit Pro. I'm one of the contributors to CanFit Pro. Thank you, Mo and Erin. And she reached out to me and she said, we're doing this piece, and it was a really great piece that her and Tasha had written about obesity, but it needed editing. So I was like, do you want me to, like, should I take a pass at this? She's like, yes, please. And so then Sarah hired me to be the communications director for LiveWell. And then the pandemic, we were in the midst of all of these lockdowns, and the Fitness Industry Council of Canada, which is the lobbying association for the fitness industry, they reached out to me simultaneously and were like, can you do some work for us? So it's been all of these small little stepping stones. So I do a lot of press releases, press reach outs, but I do a lot of the articles as well in a variety of different bylines.
Well, and the thing that I find really touching, and something that I've noticed so much in doing this project, is that anyone that we encounter in this space, and it doesn't matter whether they're most successful high-level CEO that I've chatted with so far to somebody just starting out, generally has a really deep, meaningful connection to their why fitness is important. And I really appreciate you sharing that deep grief and loss that obviously has connected you even further to your purpose, especially when I know those publications that you're writing for, when you speak to the Fitness Industry Council of Canada, especially in those lobbying efforts, so much around that is really just encouraging people to understand how valuable movement is beyond the physicality, but from a mental health perspective, from a healthcare perspective. And I imagine that for you, even though I know you're doing that as work, it must have a meaningful connection to the fact that that message is so important to you, given what you experienced in your younger years, hey?
It's been through everything. Many of my students, because I launched a virtual fitness program, I taught for free for 6 months at the beginning of the pandemic. We got home and I was like, we're going to all need exercise, right? And so I just started teaching. It was kind of insane. If you, when we hit the 3 year of the pandemic in March, all of my memories on Facebook came back. I'm like, a little crazy. Because I was just like, let's Tabata and this and that. And then I said, well, I think I can make a business out of this. So many of my students, they've heard me say the same things over and over again. You know, we don't learn through our easy times. We learn through our tough times. And for me, I have used exercise throughout my whole life when things were difficult. If I'm having a rough day, I'll go out for a 20-minute run. And this is what I try to inspire through both the communications work that I do and through the actual physical work that I do, is it doesn't have to be a 20-minute run. And I want to get into that point about from the exercise world, because we, and you probably have noticed this in the gyms, we've changed a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And yet, we still have a physical inactivity crisis. If you have 50% of the population that still is not getting their 150 minutes a week, there's a disconnect happening, right? And part of the messaging that we need to do within the fitness industry, and why National Health and Fitness Day is so great for us, is as much, and this is going to sound two-tier, we have to recognize that our gyms, exactly what you said, they are places, it's not just physical and mental health, it's social health. Mm-hmm. It's accountability. It's also trained, certified professionals who can take someone who was completely sedentary and say, I got you. I got you. Because that is why people will walk into our gyms and like a revolving door and walk out again, because they don't feel like they belong. Because they feel like they had to be fit in the first place to just walk through our doors. We have actually a lot of work to do, not simply just within the Fitness Industry Council. I would say by and large, across the world, we have a lot of work to do of making exercise and specifically fitness more accessible and friendlier and more welcoming to everyone. So someone comes in and goes, God, that class sucked, but I loved it, right? And that is why I don't think I'm ever going to retire, because I think the work ahead of us, we've got a lot of voices in this sphere saying, just go out and walk. Okay, walking is fantastic. I'm never going to say walking isn't fantastic, right? I walk every single day, but you also have to strength train. You also have to get your heart rate up into a challenging zone to reap the benefits of exercise. People need to know what that is. People need to know how to do it safely. We have mobility issues. We have flexibility issues. We have chronic health conditions. Like, there is a myriad of things that exercise can help with. But we also have to make sure that that door is wide open, which is why we're opening our doors on Saturday.
Fitness World's 16 British Columbia high-value, low-cost gyms are committed to helping people reach their fitness goals, whatever those may be. Exercise and movement play a pivotal role in supporting people's overall health and wellness, and it is Fitness World's mission to provide the facilities, services, and amenities to help you achieve your fitness your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca for more information.
I couldn't agree more. I think, Erin, there's a lot of unlearnings that we have to do, because when you think of the messaging that was in the fitness space for so long, and in addition, like for myself, I think of the type of messaging I grew up on as a woman. I mean, but to be honest, so much of it was directed at us with diet culture. I was just speaking with this lovely woman named Charlotte yesterday, who is a plus size model. And we were discussing the language that even our parents spoke to us with, and without intention. But it was like, even our moms were often on a diet all the time. Or in high school, you're thinking of the cabbage soup diet that people do for surgery. And yet that was running rampant through the hallways. And so I think that for such a long period of time, that language and also the visuals surrounding the spaces, and that's what's really refreshing to see the change. But I do think it's going to take a little bit of time until we get there.
And I don't think I don't think we've come that far. Honestly, I really don't. I mean, I don't know how many times I've said the message. I have a health coaching group that's on right now. I run it 3 times a year. So it's called the Healthy Six, and I go through 6 pillars of health. And this diet culture you're referring to, I have women, incredible women in their 60s and their 70s doing this program, and it's, even telling them that like exercise is not going to help them lose weight, right? And sweat is your fat crying. Oh God, oh Lord, oh goodness, no, no, no. You know what? All sizes should exercise. And actually, my mom, who, when you brought up the cabbage soup diet, she and I had this conversation many, many times before she passed away. It was like, she grew up in the Twiggy era in the UK.
Right.
Then, we then were like, I remember her, my brother and I remember her like having black coffee and cigarettes all throughout our childhood, right? She was 92 pounds dripping wet. I went to Weight Watchers when I was 12. My body was changing, right? But I went to Weight Watchers because I thought I was fat, right? It was, and I have a 14-year-old daughter, and honest to goodness, I look at Instagram, I look at social media, I look at TikTok, I look at the messaging. I don't think we've come that far.
That's fair, because I can even think in my own life, like how much my language has changed even in 5 years. Like, yeah. I 1000% have been guilty of perpetuating the wrong message in not that far a distant past. And I was doing that even when I know, for me personally, the mental health thing is like, my gym is my sanctuary. When I was in COVID, I get this is coming, it's a very privileged comment, because I know that so many people were going through horrific circumstances in that time when I say this. So I am acknowledging that, but I was journaling about the gym because it was having such a strong impact on my mindset. And obviously, I know there's other spaces that we can get fitness. And I slowly started to make the efforts of getting out for the walk and just doing those little bits that I could. But for me, that is the space that's such a mental health space. And yet, even though knowing that impact, I was still very guilty of giving those wrong messages.
And you know what? Like, this is something we heard, especially where you are, Vancouver, right? Like we were locked down all across the country. Like Ontario was locked down for like close to 200 days in total over 3 years. Like the lockdowns happened far too frequently, and like we can put that in the rear view mirror. But what we heard the most from our members within the Fitness Industry Council was the members of our gyms going, it's the mental health. We had gyms who were opening at 5 a.m. and many of those guys at 5 a.m. were recovering addicts.
Mm-hmm.
And they were using the gym for their recovery. And they were really worried about what was going to happen to these guys who were like getting off of drugs and getting off of alcohol through physical activity. And this is where I feel as though for the Canadians who are inactive, this is the hugest opportunity we have at this moment in time. It's why this article I wrote for FitBiz Weekly this week, I actually used the word, we're in a revolutionary moment, I feel. And I feel as though more and more fitness owners, more and more trainers, more and more group fitness instructors, we understand exactly what you've just said, is that the physical gains are great. Performance is great. But in my view, if you're going for a sub 140 half marathon, you've already drunk the Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah.
That's not who we need to talk to. Like those people, we've done our job. We succeeded there. Go forth. Like we're still going to be here. We're still going to be here to motivate you and cross-train you and all of the rest of it. But what I really care about, why I feel like this is my life work, is making people understand in their bodies how it feels, and understanding that setbacks are a part of every single person's journey, right? If you have not been active for 3 years, you can get active again, right? If you feel like you have no core strength, we can help you gain core strength. If you've got lower back issues, we know what to do to help you with your lower back issues, right? I wrote an article a few months ago and I said, because within the Fitness Industry Council of Canada, we've been lobbying the government for physical activity tax credits provincially, and we've been lobbying the federal government to revise line 33099 to make gym memberships a medical expense on our taxes.
But I can't get over, it says ineligible and they just need to cross out an I and an N, but continue.
There's a lot of complicated reasons, and I'm not, we are talking to the government continuously, and we hope this dialogue continues for well, hopefully it will get past next year. But I wrote an article that said, if we had a dental crisis, and this was before the NDP's dental push, the dental benefits, if we had a dental crisis, every dentist across the country, right, would be called to come and fix teeth. Every dental hygienist would be pulled out of retirement to make sure that we fix the teeth. So why are we not taking the same attitude and approach to a physical activity crisis? Why? When our hospitals, you talk to any physician in an ER, yes, COVID is number 3, but if you look at what is filling our hospitals, it's chronic health conditions, right? If you look at the fact that 1 in 5 Canadians, 1 in 5, and that is in surveys, I can guarantee you it's probably 2 in 5, are experiencing some kind of a mental health crisis. Why are we not being allowed to do our jobs? Why are fitness professionals not on the front lines of this? And this is again where it's the rebranding of our industry. They're like, oh, it's the gym, it's where people go to get buff. No, it's not. It's the place where people go for their physical health, their mental health, their social health, to be held accountable to their fitness programs, like to do it safely. And I've been saying this for years, and I'm never going to get tired of saying it, right? Until things change.
No, 1,000%. And it's like, say it louder for the ones in the back, because there is so much work to do on that front. And the science is connected to it as well. Like I had Dr. Ben Singh on, and he went a bit viral because he ended up on Joe Rogan. But he was the lead researcher for the study that came out that basically explored tons of studies that took place and showed that exercise was more effective than medicine for treating depression and anxiety, not to discount people that do need the assistance of the medication. However, his primary point was, why is it that physicians have this hesitation to prescribe exercise. And then when you look at our fitness professionals, they are 1000% the experts in that field to help people embrace movement. And again, it's not about getting shredded. It's about moving your body and taking in all the physiological and mental benefits and social benefits that come with it. I'm really happy as well that you highlighted the issue through the pandemic as well when it came to those with addiction. I have two relatives really close to me that are alcoholics, and one of them in particular that has been such a pillar in his sobriety, and the stress not only on himself but the support that's around this individual when all of a sudden something like that is taken away, and you have people where it's habitual and that's something that's very important for them is routine, and then you have that removed. I mean, I did see a post from you a while back, and I think you have a very personal connection as well to this, and that space, if there was ever a space and a connection that shows how helpful that can be for people in the depths of darkness, I'm like,
Oh,
come on.
you know what? I got sober 9 years ago, and I've been writing a memoir about my experience, and really how health habits have led me to the place that I'm at right now. Right? We talk about purpose a lot in this sphere, right? And as I said earlier in the interview, I feel like my purpose found me early, but then I went into this kind of like high functioning addiction for 25 years. Because we didn't really know, right? You went to university, you drank your faces off, and then you did this, and then you did that. And that's changed a lot. Like our gyms are very much filled with a lot of Gen Z. Like we haven't had any problem attracting Gen Z back, and they are a different breed than we were, right? Like the Gen X's and even the Gen Y's. But without a doubt, exercise was my number one tool that I used when I got sober. I was telling that to my brother last night. Like I probably ran 6 half marathons in the first 2 years of sobriety, because running, I mean, as we know, exercise is a drug, right? Exercise is a drug. And when we talk about that longitudinal study that was published in the British Medical Journal in March, it's really, really relevant what you say, is that you're going to get the gatekeepers going, oh yeah, exercise, rolling their eyes. Here's the thing. It needs to be a part of everyone's mental health treatment plan, right?
Agreed.
And there are a lot of, I have friends who are psychiatrists and psychologists who've told me that there are a lot of new psychologists and psychiatrists coming up in their 20s and 30s who actually will not see a patient, will not take a patient on unless they're exercising already.
Incredible.
That to me is amazing, right? Like that to me is kind of, and not to be damning, of course, they're not going to turn someone away from their doors if they're in need and in crisis, but you've got, it's a catch-22. If someone is very, very depressed, it's going to be very hard to get them moving, right? But again, this is an opportunity for the fitness industry, right? It's an opportunity for us to be kinder, more gentle, more compassionate with the people that are coming to our gyms. And I think every single fitness owner across this country needs to pull back a little bit and figure out, what their brand is, what their message is, and that message of community, togetherness, exercise is medicine, exercise for all, needs to be front and center for all of us.
Well, and luckily we do know the shift is happening. And I know at time of recording, National Health and Fitness Day is going to be taking place. So tell me a little bit about the initiative, what we're going to see, and what we're hoping comes out of the weekend.
So National Health and Fitness Day was actually started in 2010 by Senator Nancy Green Rain. And she was a very active, older. I think she was in her 60s when she started this initiative, and she looked at the excitement around the Vancouver Olympics, and she was like, we need a day. And now it's actually come into 2 days. We have a winter one and we have a summer one, but we need a day. And the idea is to make Canada the fittest nation in the world, which I absolutely love. So it was passed unanimously in Senate in 2014. And since then, the first Saturday of June every year is National Health and Fitness Day. We are part of a Fitness Industry Council of Canada, is part of a committee that includes Participation and a number of others. that have been pushing this forward in our own ways. And we said to all of our members in our national meeting, open your doors to the public, right? Everyone should be free on this day, have free events. And we've got events all across. We've got Vancouver, Kamloops, Calgary, Winnipeg, Toronto, like Quebec City, Montreal, all across the country. There's going to be events that you can go to and just be a part of what we're calling the National Fitness Party. And really the idea is just, we've also created a guest pass for our members for them to bring a family or a friend that day. And so it's really just a push. It's like our Christmas, right? Like our Super Bowl, right? We want everyone to embrace the power of exercise on Saturday, June 3rd.
Well, and I love a Christmas that comes 2 times a year.
I know, right? Yeah, the winter one is in February, and it's also just a great any time that I can talk about fitness and the power of exercise is a good day for me.
Absolutely. And for the Fitness Industry Council of Canada, I mean, you speak to the fact that your members are helping to perpetuate this message. But let's say there's a gym owner that is not involved. But they really resonate with this message. What are some actionable steps that they can take to help move this agenda forward, add their voice to this narrative?
They can go to our website, the FIC website, the Fitness Industry Council website. We have a bunch of materials on there. We have a press release that I've written that they can use and they can send out to media. They can invite members of MPs, MPPs, city councilors. And you know what? Just throw an event, open your doors that day, right? Get a Bristol board. You only have a few days. And write National Health and Fitness Day. We're part of the National Fitness Party. Put it on your windows. Bring people in. In my view, in my estimation, we know the fitness industry is recovering still, right? Like, we were hit hard. We are not ignoring that elephant in the room. What we are saying to gym owners, whether they're an FIC member or not, is you really don't have anything to lose, right? You could get a new member that day. You could get 5 new members that day, you know. And it's not simply about, you know, the health of our fitness industry, it's the health of Canadians.
1000%, which we know there is a lot of work to do on that front. And you are doing incredible work yourself with all the elements that you take on. You wear so many hats. So I'm curious, when you look in your crystal ball, what is your hope for yourself as you look into the future, your future of fitness?
You know what? It's funny. I mean, I'm playing the long game here now of fitness, right? I have not been without injury. All those half marathons hurt my knee. Now I'm able to run 5 to 10K, you know, and that is my distance. I'm not really running any more half marathons. I injured my shoulder in a random ice event in November, and I've rehabbed it myself. It's made me acutely aware, right, of one body, one life. So my goal is it's funny because I have this beautiful virtual fitness program where every single day I come on Zoom and I have a crew of people doing classes with me. This morning we did a cardio sculpt class. Friday we do our yoga class. I'm always educating myself. I'm always training. I'm always doing CamFit Pro certifications, other certifications. I just did my 200-hour yoga training from October to May. Like, if you stop learning in this industry, if you stop growing, then you're of no use to the people who need you. So, and that is the exact same tack I'm taking with the Fitness Industry Council. Our goal is to get every gym in the next few years a member of our Fitness Industry Council of Canada, to make our association that much stronger, to make our lobbying voice that much more powerful, and to provide fitness businesses with the resources they need to thrive. And so I feel as though these 2 threads that we were talking about at the beginning are just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger, because I am living my purpose. I know it without a doubt. It's not without challenges. Of course it is. I run my own business, right? You understand that, right? It's challenging. You don't really take a lot of downtime. I'm constantly moving from one thing to the next, but the common denominator in the fraction is exercise is medicine. You know, if anyone sees if anyone looks at my Instagram, anyone looks at any of my messaging, you pretty much know what I'm all about, right? I am all about exercise as medicine, because I would rather have someone who is generally considered sort of like overweight, has not been working out for 40 years, 30 years, join my program and realize they can do a squat. They can do knee push-ups. They can hold a plank. They can hold a plank for 10 seconds, and then in 6 months they'll be holding a plank for a minute. That's my goal in life, really.
Well, and it's life fuel when you get to share or see the impact in another. I mean, that's what I've had so much joy with all of these conversations, because I worked in television media for many years. You interview lots of people, and there's a lot of people that reach different levels of success along the way, and maybe have a bit of a disconnect to their why at that point. And something that really stands out about this industry is, for the most part, everyone has a really strong connection to what it's done for themselves. And the purpose comes from such a place of purity in the message. I know you want people to discover this. You know that it can actually change lives. And together, if we keep putting our voices together, more and more people are going to discover that for themselves. And it only takes one first day to try. It could be a 5-minute walk. It only takes one little moment to take those first steps, and they don't need to be large steps. And people like yourself are helping people discover that within themselves. And so I'm very appreciative for the work that you do. And
Aw.
I just love that you've turned obstacles in life into something that's going to drive you with this added level of inertia toward that purpose. And it bounces off every single thing that you put up there.
Oh, thanks, honey. And it's funny when you say that. I know we're running out of time, but in my health coaching program, one thing I launched that is now a permanent part of my virtual business is a thing called exercise snacks. So we all know, like what you just said, the 5-minute walk, that's what triggered my brain. So I do 5-minute workouts every day to a song. I have a playlist, like I have a Google Sheet for all of my members to put requests in. And we literally will do, we just did a plank to calm down. We just did Bon Jovi, It's My Life, like an aerobics. And what they have realized in 5 minutes is, one, it breaks up the day, right? It breaks up the day with movement, and it inspires them. It inspires them to have a glass of water. It inspires them to have a good, healthy lunch. Maybe they go out and do a longer workout afterwards. But I feel as though the way that we are going to get out of our inactivity crisis is through exactly what you just said and what I added on to. It's, you can go into the gym for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That 10 minutes will probably turn into 20 once you're there. It will probably turn into 30, but just talk yourself into going in there for 10 minutes. That's it, right? We've got to hook people differently. We've got to make people have that feeling in their body that we know exercise provides.
Building those foundations, Erin. Before I let you go, I love leaving people with a little bit of life fuel. So what would be a motivational nugget of wisdom, or perhaps a favorite quote that you can leave us with today? I put everyone on the spot with this one.
I want to give two from my mom. So my mom, and when we talk about all of these things, and I don't want anyone to leave on a sad note who's watching it, but in September 2021, and you would know this because of my Instagram, I walked into my mom's apartment, and I found her, and she had passed away of sudden lung failure, and she was my best friend. She was everything to me. And again, I took a week off. I ran every day, and then a week after she died, I was like, I gotta teach. I actually think I was wearing this top. And I came in and Monday morning at 7 a.m. and I taught Tabata, and my Fit Fam, they got me through the hardest days of my life. Exercise got me through the hardest days of my life. But the quote I will leave as the life view is, your attitude determines your altitude. That was my mom's most famous saying. She had many of them. Your attitude determines your altitude. So it is not always easy to be positive. My goodness, is it not? Right? And false positive there's nothing worse than someone who's false positive too. We're real. People are real. People go through hard things, right? That the other line that my mother would say is, darling girl, she was English, life is a tragedy. Once you realize that, you're going to be a lot happier. It's true though, right? We have for many of us we have tragic lives, right? Like the
It's where
hard
the lessons are often.
it's I said this to my group 2 days ago. I'm like, I love joy-filled days. I love them. On Saturday night, I went and saw Crowded House live. I was looking around and I was so filled with joy and so much love. But everything I've learned has come through when it's hard. When I've been put into my really uncomfortable place, right? And that's again what exercise does for us. It doesn't just build muscles, it builds resiliency. We build the bodies, the minds, and the spirit, right? That carries us through life. That's my life fuel.
I absolutely love that. And I do want to say, by no means is that leaving us on a sad note. That is leaving us with realness. That's what we need more of in this world. Our stories is where our power is, because it moves people, and having the honesty and the courage to share our stories is truthfully where the change happens. So, Erin, I honestly could talk to you forever. You just have such a wonderful energy about you. And I know that you have such a connectedness to every single thing that you do. And I know that you'll just keep shining through it and putting it out there. And I just encourage you so much to do so. And I cannot wait till you and I sit and have this conversation and all of that lobbying effort has worked and things have passed. And we have statistics that are looking a lot more hopeful and promising for the future. And it all starts here. So thank you so much, Erin, for offering your time to me today and sharing space.
You've just listened to All Things Fitness and Wellness. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World. Your fitness, your way. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss out on hearing from industry thought leaders and influencers. We are on a mission to help everyone live a life fit and well.